This is the New York City FC Pregame Live. Tonight, New York City head back on the road to take on Charlotte FC. And now, here are your hosts, Glenn Crooks and Matty Lawrence.
All the big time and just to have that recognition and come up there one at a time. It's really cool.
And there it is, Bank of America Stadium in Charlotte, North Carolina, site of Chelsea coach Enzo Maresca's rant about the weather. And whether the World Cup should even be in the United States of America. He was a bit emotional after his match here against Benfica, and we'll get into the details here. We're going to talk a little bit about the Heat and other things as well. Hey, I'm Glenn Crooks. There's Matty Lawrence. We've got the live commentary coming up at 7:15, beginning with a pregame show and a 13-minute conversation exclusive with head coach Pascal Janssen. We talk about the weather. I'm going to play a portion of that here because it's pretty interesting in terms of preparation. As New York City starts the night, seventh place in the East on 31 points. The record is 9 wins, 7 losses, 4 draws. And Charlotte, they're a notch below the playoff line in the 10th position on 26 points. Their record, 8 up, 11 down, and just 2 draws. So there's lots of storylines today. The Club World Cup of the Heat is one. Patrick Agyemang is another. Wilfried Zaha is another. And Nico Fernandez Mercado, he's not in the building, but neither is Agyemang. Mercado or Fernandez. I believe we're going to call him Fernandez when he and Julian are on the field together. I'm not sure, but that's the new TP that was announced yesterday for the New York City Football Club. But Matty, we're going to start off. First of all, how you doing?
I'm doing very well, thank you.
Why don't you explain? I think your jersey has an interesting story, so I would like you to explain it.
The football shirt, yeah. Obviously, Oasis, you can't quite see, but Oasis.
You have to rise slightly. There it is.
I'll go
okay.
backwards. Yeah, Oasis have obviously reformed, and they've just played Manchester. They played Manchester tonight. They've done 2 gigs in Cardiff, and now they've done 2 in Manchester. So they've reformed, and they've hooked up with Bohemians. And Bohemians is a football team in Derby. They aren't the first band to have done it. Fontaines DC had a hookup with them, a link up. And so Oasis have hooked up. They have their name emblazoned. Whether Oasis have paid Bohemians money or whether Bohemians have paid Oasis money, who knows? But they're on the shirt. And look, Bohemians is a fan-run, a fan-owned football club. So 50% of the proceeds go to Bohemians, the football club. And then the other 50%, and I will quickly read it out, the other 50% goes to a music charity. And the other 50%, here we go, 50% of the music goes to, or of the proceeds go to Music Generation Ireland and the Irish Community Care in Manchester. So it's 2 charitable organisations pick up 50%, and Bohemians are a fan-run football team pick up the other 50% of the profits. Wow. And I did actually see there's another kid. I'm not a kid, obviously. I'm an old age pensioner. In comparison, there was a younger man than me who also has the same shirt next door in the press room. So the shirts are getting about. So
nice. And Noel Gallagher, he's a noted Manchester City supporter.
They both
right?
are. Noel and Liam are.
Oh, but both are? Okay. All right. Well, I enjoyed the explanation. Good stuff, man. Good stuff. It's an attractive jersey, to be certain.
And the right color.
All right. We're going to start off talking about weather. You know, it's like we're going to be like an old couple. We're going to talk about the weather. So on June 28th here at Bank of America Stadium, let's take another look at it. There it is. It's a massive structure, and it's where the Carolina Panthers NFL team plays. That is artificial turf that you see down there. Now, when you were watching Club World Cup games, they put down natural grass and let it lay a little bit and then played the matches there. I don't know when they took the grass up. I asked the question on the way down whether they would leave the grass on for a little while, but no, it's gone. It's an artificial surface. So it was grass then. Round of 16 game lasted 4 hours and 38 minutes. Chelsea against Benfica. Benfica scored. So this is Chelsea's up 1-0 at the 87-minute mark. I think is when it was called or delayed, suspended. They come back. Benfica scores a late goal to make it 1-1 to send it into extra time. And then Chelsea scores 3 times in extra time, and they end up winning it 4-1, but 4 hours and 38 minutes. So post-game, these are just some of the comments from Maresca, the Chelsea coach. By the way, Chelsea, PSG, tomorrow at MetLife Stadium, 3 p.m. Eastern in the Club World Cup final. But what he said after that game, for me personally, it's not football. I think it's a joke. It's not football. And he questioned the suitability of the United States as a venue for a competition like this. Well, a competition like this is coming next summer. The World Cup, the frequency of weather-related suspensions is what he was referring to. That was the sixth game that had been delayed or postponed from the start. And ironically, here we are tonight. Guess what? There's a chance of thunderstorms, and
there definitely are.
You know, we can't see the entire outlook, but to our upper right, I don't think you can see.
You can't see it in the picture, but certainly we can see if we just look under the lip of the stadium. It's looking pretty dark to the right-hand side. Certainly on my app, I just have the AccuWeather app. It has a 60% chance of a thunderstorm between the times of 6 p.m., which obviously passed, and 8 p.m., which is just after kickoff time. So let's hope we don't have a 2-hour weather delay.
Arsene Wenger, you know, he's the now a FIFA guy.
Yeah.
He also responded to this. He's part of the technical committee, the Heat, that is. His quote, "On the Heat, it was, in some games, a problem." Okay. And he says that he has asked analysts to take a deeper look at the problem. I mean, what can an analyst do?
Well, repeat that it's quite hot. Yes, it's ridiculous. And let's not forget that Arsene Wenger works for FIFA, as you just said, which is the organisation, obviously the football organisation, the World Football Organisation that organised the Club World Cup and is obviously organising the World Cup. So I guarantee they're not going to come to the conclusion that the heat is too dangerous. So, yes, they're not going to come to any mind-altering conclusion, that's for sure. When your paymaster tells you to do something, you just nod or ask how high you should jump.
We are rolling the starting 11 for New York City FC as they prepare to play Charlotte FC here on the road, where New York City has never won a match. Back to the Heat, Jurgen Klinsmann. All right. Yep. So the World Cup was in the U.S. in 1994. And his quote is, "I played in Dallas in 94 in 120 degrees at noon because of television in Europe." He said, "Well, we were dying. 2 more minutes on the field, and they would have scored the third goal. Thank God they ended up winning the match against South Korea 3-2. So there's a Heat comment from Jurgen Klinsmann as well. Yeah.
Look, guess what? It's going to be very, very hot during the World Cup. And also a lot of the games are going to be under roofs, aren't they? They are going to be inside. I think, is there 8 stadiums that are going to be played inside, I think. Somebody said that, and I couldn't name them.
Well, we do
all.
know, like, he was in Dallas for that game. That was open air. Now it'll be at the AT&T Stadium, which will be covered
enclosed.
in 72
Atlanta,
degrees.
As we know, is enclosed. I can't think of the other ones off the top of my head.
So what you do as a coach, you have to prepare your team. Now, you could just say, well, both teams have to deal with it, and then you deal with it. So this is something I asked right at the top of my interview with Pascal Janssen. Was not only was it a trip coming up where you were going to be in intense heat here in Charlotte, North Carolina, but the week of training in New York, in Orangeburg, New York, was also pretty brutal. So here's how Pascal responded as far as preparing for this.
The thing is that we try to make sure that we mirror the circumstances of these games. Our training sessions now have been brought down into 45 to 60-minute sessions. So the intensity of the sessions remain really, really high. Another factor is what happens around the pitch. So with everything that we do in regen or preparation going into sessions, the sauna is also a part of the program. So even though it's really, really hot outside, the guys go into programs that they go into the sauna on a regular basis to make sure that the mental and the physical come together in order to deal with these circumstances. And that's just a little piece of the things that we try to do in order to make sure that our players can deal with these circumstances to the best they can, and also keeping the standards during training and during the games as high as possible.
How closely can you monitor it in game and make decisions based on that as well.
It's been a point of discussion throughout the World Cup as well, and those teams were the majority of the teams were playing throughout the afternoon even, and that can be even more
the last
drastic.
two semifinal games at MetLife.
Yeah,
you could see the heat rising from the turf.
Yeah, the interesting one was for me though the game against the quarterfinal from Paris Saint-Germain, because they played in Atlanta, and I believe the roof was closed, so it was brought down to 71 degrees. You could see the difference in behavior on the pitch, and we as a staff, we were at the other quarterfinal in MetLife with Dortmund against Real Madrid. The intensity was there, but the intensity was there with peak moments. And that is what I tried to explain you just now also. It's about when you go for these peak moments and the highest intensity, it has to be done with the same speed, with the same power as we try to do with other circumstances.
Well, a lot there. And first of all, pretty interesting that you might sweat through a session and then have to hop into a sauna as opposed to a nice cold shower. And I will have a follow-up for him next week. Matty, we were driving up to the airport to get here, and you had asked, well, what kinds of things are they doing in the sauna? Are they actually doing activities in the sauna? Which is interesting.
Very much so. Are they being asked to do the odd pirouette? Are they being asked to juggle the football? Are they being asked mental questions, like arithmetic problems, things like that? Because it's not just a matter of sitting there. Football's mental and physical, and you don't just sit there during a football game. You have to use your brain. You have to work out who you're marking, where you're standing on the pitch, things like that. So I do wonder within those sauna sessions whether there is additional pieces of information as well. I do find that fascinating to learn. Yes, as you say, you sweat yourself to death out there for 45, 60 minutes in a session, then you have to go and sit in a sauna.
Or go in the sauna first and then go out into the heat. Either way.
But again, the point of just sitting out, I do think there must have to be some kind of mental, physical agility within that as well. But that's something to find out further on down the line. But certainly going back to the heat here today, yes, we know it's going to be a 7:30, 7:40 kickoff, but it is incredibly sticky and incredibly humid here, and it will be throughout the whole game. Even when the sun goes down, it is still going to be relentless, this heat.
The other thing that he talked about, and I think this is significant, he said the game was just simply better at Mercedes-Benz in the air-conditioned environment, or just air that is breathable and where you can move throughout the match versus what we had at MetLife Stadium for the semifinal. So there's something to be said there as far as the quality of what you're watching.
Yeah, it doesn't take a genius to work out that if it's 94 degrees down on the field and it's incredibly humid, that the players can only, as Pascal said, can only work in fits and starts. They can only be at their peak during minimal parts of the game, when they're on the ball, for instance, when they're in the final third, for instance, whereas at Mercedes-Benz, as he said it was noticeable. You can see that throughout the game. You can play to your full capacity throughout the 90 minutes. So yes, as many games as possible here in the US for the World Cup, which is what we're talking about predominantly, you want them to be inside, or you want them to be played either early morning or later on in the day. But we also know that FIFA and the World Cup is geared to
like
people.
Klinsmann said,
absolutely,
noon for Europe.
TV. It's being broadcast all around the world, and predominantly for, I would imagine, the South American audience and the European audience.
You may not be able to see it, but if you look down on the field to the left now, as we put it up for you, the New York City goalkeepers are warming up, and Matt Freese is back, and that means he's back in the starting lineup for New York City FC. Before we get to New York City and the game itself, there's been a bit of a saga around Charlotte FC with someone who is now pretty well known in the soccer circles because he started and played in every game of the Gold Cup up top, and that's Patrick Agyemang, the striker. So there have been numerous reports, that he has agreed to a contract with Derby, but he's still under contract with Charlotte, so they have to agree to this transfer. And what I would imagine, Matty, and Agyemang is not in the squad today. He apparently was around yesterday. He was seen yesterday, was not at training on Thursday. So it's really unclear where somebody saw him yesterday. It wasn't said that, oh, yeah, he was training yesterday. That was not said to me. It was just said he was seen. But with the club in control, they're not going to make a move until they get the right price, I would assume.
Yeah, anything I've read in the press is alluding to the fact that the price has already been set. It's $8 million up front and then $2 million in add-ons.
Yeah.
I do find it very, very strange that an agreement hasn't been fully reached, i.e. Agyemang hasn't gone over there, had his medical and signed on the dotted line, because let's not forget, Derby County in the second tier in England in the Championship, they're in pre-season. They've
already started,
they've already started pre-season.
Okay. Somebody said in the presser next week, but either way,
I think that's when they go on a trip abroad. They will already be in the building. Absolutely, 100%. They'll have been training for at least a week. I think their first game of the season will be about August the 7th, August the 10th. So that's in 3-4 weeks' time. So they want him in the building as soon as possible to get acclimatized to, English conditions, let's be honest, and his teammates, so he can learn that. You don't want to just be thrown in at the deep end.
Well, let's talk a little bit more about this after we hear from Dean Smith.
Sure.
So I was listening to the Dean Smith presser this week. Try to do that when the opponent is talking during the week to get an idea what they're thinking, but also with Patrick Agyemang front and center. And his comments went pretty viral in regard to whether he should stay at Charlotte or go to Derby. And this is a guy that's played and coached in the Championship and the Premier League. So here's Dean Smith earlier this week regarding Patrick Agyemang.
Yeah, I had a chat with him yesterday when he was back, wanting to see where his feelings was, and it's hard to talk. It's a private conversation obviously I had with him, but he intimated that he would be interested in a move. So again, we're in control of it because we're not looking to sell better players unless the fee's right for our club. So I believe that's ongoing at the moment. Well, he puts pressure on us, but it's something that we've obviously been aware of. There's been interest in him. The fact that we haven't been able to agree a new contract with Patrick and his representatives has always indicated that this was likely to happen, whether it was in this window or at the end of the season. So we've had balls in motion and plates spinning in terms of what other players we can look to bring in if that was to happen. So I do feel that this has probably been pushed by his representatives more than the actual player. I am surprised. I'm surprised. I'll be surprised if he goes to the Championship in the UK, as has been reported. But that's just my own personal view.
Why?
I think a team. I think the Championship is not too much different from the other. This is a major league over here. You're going to a second league in the UK. There's not going to be loads of time for development because they play Saturday, Tuesday. There's 46 games a season. I think for him to remain one of the big players for the US national team as well, probably to stay here would be better.
Well, a lot of that one as well, and that's the part that really a Derby supporter or someone on that side of the pond brought that to light, and that's when it got all kinds of reaction. Almost, how dare you, compare the Championship to MLS? Well, Matty, I'm deferring to you because you played there, and it's an interesting situation as to what's best for him. And earlier, in the comment you didn't hear from Dean Smith, is he talked about you play so many games in the Championship, and you've said that before. It's just it's the durability of those players is unbelievable. But is there room for development when you're just playing a game every Tuesday, Saturday? So what do you think?
Well, that's certainly another reason they want him in the building as soon as possible, not only to develop him, but to get him used to the style of play of Derby County. It's very, very hard to say whether one place is better than the other, and I'll sit on the fence just for 5 seconds there. It depends how well he fits in at Derby. If he does well at Derby, it's much better for him to be at Derby County, in my opinion, than to be at MLS. But if he goes to Derby County and fails, which he may do because it is a very, very hard league, it is a very physical league, which suits him, but it is a league that he has no idea about. It is a league that plays 12 more games than MLS, and on top of that, they play the Carabao Cup and the FA Cup as well. He probably didn't play in the US Open Cup. I don't know that off the top of my head, but it's certainly not many rounds of that he were playing. It all depends on how he transitions into the championship. The championship is, without a shadow of a doubt, certainly the top half of the championship is better than the MLS. But that doesn't mean that certain players like Messi or, other players like Hani Mukhtar couldn't go and play in the Premier League. But overall, the teams, and mainly because of the wage structure, the championship, certainly the top half, if not the top 2/3, is better than an MLS team. But again, we're talking about just one man, one character, one individual, one athlete, Patrick Aguiman. And what we're truly talking about is whether he plays in the FA Cup, in the World Cup next year. That's what we're talking about.
Right.
What is the right move for him
Right.
to get into the US men's national team in the World Cup next year? And that is only time will tell. It could well be better for him to stay here because he's ingrained in MLS and he bangs in goals in MLS. We know that. And sometimes it's better the devil you know. But also, as Dean Smith said and alluded to, he's going to be on much more money at Derby County. It is going to be higher profile, even in the championship there. He is going to be playing against ex-Premier League teams just about every single week, whether it be Norwich, whether it be Sheffield Wednesday, whether it be Leicester, or whoever else, Southampton. Pretty much every team, bar about one or two, has played in the Premier League.
Yeah.
And don't forget, the Premier League only started in 1993. Everybody believes that so many people believe that the Premier League's been there all-encompassing, but it's only been there since 1993. It's up to Aguiman, and forget his agents. Yes, he's got agents, and the agents make a lot more money if he makes a move. That is for certain.
Yeah.
But I would like to hope that Patrick Aguiman and his family and his close friends have got more sway on him than just his agents. He's not stupid. He's going to realise that his agents are mainly in this for the money, not just for their love of Patrick Aguiman. I think I've been told that he's represented by CAA, which is a worldwide organisation who has many, many, many clients,
including Tim Ream, one of his
Patrick
teammates.
Patrick Aguiman is just a small microcosm of that, and just somebody they can make money from. So as long as he's doing this for the best reasons, he believes this can further his football career. I've got no problem with him going there. The other point we've got to remember is that Derby County aren't one of the best teams in the Championship. They only finished 18th in the Championship last season. They're in the bottom third of the league, but they have recently employed at the back end of last season John Eustace, who's a very good manager, who I think, Glenn, you said had talks with Charlotte before Dean Smith came.
Exactly. He was in the group, in one of the initial groups where they had a large stable that they were picking and choosing from to bring in. And so that's an interesting side note as well in all this. And it really has been a bit of a saga. Wilfred Zaha, and I'm going to bring Matty back in also because I remember talking about him. Crystal Palace, he's an absolute legend there, over 450 games. And got his first professional appearance with Palace at the age of 17. And I think you told me that he was in training. Yeah. You trained with him, right?
We trained, He was a precocious little so-and-so, that's for certain. He came over at the age of 16. I don't think he made his debut when I was there. I think it was the season after. But he certainly trained with the first team in, what would it be, the 2009-10 season when I was there at Crystal Palace. And when I say he's a precocious so-and-so, that's a compliment. He was a 16-year-old kid, and he was very, very confident, very comfortable on the ball. He was very wiry, skinny young kid. He's just a 16-year-old boy. But believe you me, we had a lot of men in our team, and I mean men who would have been, who had the thought of, who is this precocious so-and-so coming over? And they're going to just see what he's made of, and would kick him a few times in training. He is incredibly talented. And I think part of the reason that Pascal Janssen has made certain decisions in his team today is because of Wilfried Zaha. And Zaha, on his day, is almost unplayable. Yes, he's a little bit older. He's 32 years of age. But he's a trier. He's a wonderful talent. I'm really looking forward to seeing him play.
We'll see him on the left wing. And he's back after serving a one-game yellow card accumulation suspension and that was the Orlando game, which Charlotte went up 2-0, and it was a 2-2 draw. It's been that kind of year for them. And Zaha, who is most recently, he's had a goal contribution in 4 consecutive games. Ironically, it was the 4 games Patrick Aguiman was also away at the Gold Cup with the U.S. men's national team. All right, on to the New York City news. It was a big week for New York City. They have a new DP, Nicolas Fernandez Mercal. We think we're going to be calling him Nico Fernandez. We're going to have to get clarification on that. We won't be able to have any sort of commentary with him on the pitch until after July 24th.
I think we know he's just wearing Nico on his back as well, if he wants to make it really
And he's
easy
wearing number 7, the old Vian number, which is
wow.
pretty interesting too. He is 5'6". He's a proper Argentinian player. He has tattoos of both Maradona and Messi on his leg. So he's all set. Acquired from Elche from La Liga. They were just promoted to La Liga by winning their last match on June the 1st in the Segunda Division in the regular season finale, and that secured promotion to La Liga. So we don't have Pascal Janssen's scouting report on him yet. We're going to get that next week and get some details about that. A lot of people have seen the 7-minute highlight video on YouTube. That's it's been placed everywhere, and left-footed. We know he's left-footed. He uses the right peg on that highlight video. He drilled one into the upper right corner with the right from outside the box, but he's a dominant left-footed player.
Yeah, and look, we know he had a very good season with Elche. Yes, in the second tier, but at the top of the second tier, they finished second. They got promoted, as you say. For me, it's always, if you are taking a player who now would be playing in La Liga, if you're taking a player away from that league where he knows he's going to play against Atletico Madrid twice, Barcelona twice, Real Madrid twice, you must have offered him a pretty nice package to come over to MLS, to NYCFC, and there's nothing wrong with that, making moves for money. We know he's talented, but he's only had one season, Glenn. He's 26 years of age, I think, 25, 26. He's only had one season.
25, yeah.
I watched an awful lot of him and worked many games in the Argentine top tier when he played for San Lorenzo, and there wasn't masses to come of the scouting report. But also we know players develop later. So some players develop later on, and his last season, what was it, 7 goals and 10 assists, something like that. He was quite phenomenal.
17 goal contributions, which led Elche in all competitions last season. Just some of the statistical stuff. And Matty, he said, I would describe myself as a player who enjoys having the ball, and that's very obvious from that highlight reel, attacking and getting into goal-scoring positions. I love the game, and I try to bring that joy onto the pitch. I like players that play with joy.
Absolutely. Play with joy and want to be on the ball and want to take the ball in tight positions, brave on the football. I think what people hope is that he's certainly of a similar stature to Santi Rodriguez, a similar type player. He's left-sided, Santi was right-sided. And if he proves to be the player that Santi was, then absolutely fantastic, because that's what this team needs. Maxi Morales has done a fantastic job considering he's 38 years of age. He's played many more minutes than probably he thought or the coaching staff thought would be required of him. But again, you can't expect a player to come straight into this league, into this team, new environment, new language, and transition straight away, Glenn. And as I say, he's only had one season of football. He's 25 and he's only had one season of football. 7 goals, 10 assists. In the previous 5 seasons he was a professional, he didn't get 7 goals or 10 assists in the whole of those 5. So I don't think anybody should get too ahead of themselves. Let's hope that last season is what we're going to see for the rest of his career, because that's certainly what you hope from a DP. That's why you pay them DP monies and give them that title.
Now, from a marketing standpoint, Matty Lawrence, the other side of the week was the pigeon floating down the Hudson River. So 5 stories, 700 pounds on a barge. I'm sure in social media circles you've seen this thing. It was on a couple of news reports. Front Office Sports did a big story on it. So I think it got the kind of recognition that they had hoped. Now, we were discussing, this might have been on the write-up too, or maybe it was Roberto Abramowitz on NYCFC Views Live. I don't remember, but it would be like, what a great marketing ploy it would have been to have Nico Fernandez with the pigeon, right? Floating down the Hudson. Wouldn't that be great? And look, There it is. Chris Sakonis, part of our broadcast team. This is an AI-generated photo, okay? That's he did not ride with the pigeon. I thought this was great. I woke up this morning and thought of this, and I said, Chris, can you come up with something where we've got Fernandez on the barge? I wanted it to be like over his neck, just riding him, but Chris couldn't come up with that. And this was pretty good, man. This is pretty good. So that's my marketing idea for the day. And again, that was not a real
Well, and that's
photo.
why you're working in broadcasting, not marketing.
That was artificial intelligence, ladies and gentlemen. Okay, final thought on the starting lineup. Aiden O'Neill is in the midfield. That's not necessarily a surprise, but I think significant as he works his way back in, coming back from international duty himself with Australia to help them qualify for the World Cup and get himself back game fit. Also, Tavon Gray, and you said it perfectly, starting ahead of Misha Illich. You said, well, Illich had the goal last week. He really came on, did so well in the starting assignment, but who's the better defender? It's a no-brainer. And who's playing on the left side of the attack for Charlotte?
Yeah, absolutely. Tavon Gray is solely in the team to keep Wilfried Zaha quiet. And as you so rightly said as well, Glenn, Zaha has been at his most dangerous when Aguimang's not been playing. Because Wilfried Zaha doesn't just like to hug the touchline. Anybody watched him for Crystal Palace realises that he liked to come central as well. When Aguimang was there, this team was geared to play through Aguimang. When Aguimang's not there, Zaha has license to roam a little bit more as well. But ultimately, Pascal Janssen knows that Tavon Gray is, without a shadow of a doubt, the best one-on-one defender that this team has. And to keep Charlotte quiet, most of it is keeping Wilfried Zaha quiet when there is no Aguimang. And as we've already said, there is no Aguimang.
All right, one final lineup before we close. And I did mention Aiden O'Neill, and I had a nice 20-minute sit-down with him at the training facility this week, which is up on my podcast on Frame. So you'll learn a little bit more about him. There's some interesting stories, including that he owns a cattle farm near his hometown, which his parents are marshaling right now while he plays professional football. Pretty interesting stuff. But Burke Risa is not in the squad. And there were reports yesterday, and look, we see some of these reports, and you can't really understand the legitimacy of them until we saw something out of Norway where Risa was quoted in a Norwegian publication as saying he enjoyed his time here, but he's going home, and that is back to Norway and Molde. So he's not in the squad today. So there's no New York City club announcement, but it seems quite clear, Matty, that Burke Risa is no longer a member of the team.
Yeah, and I think NYCFC has been a club that has always released players. And again, we don't know any of this for definite.
Because he referred to his family in that quote.
What we know is that they don't hold players to ransom. If somebody wants to leave because they or their family are not happy, then they do their best to get rid or move that player on. And certainly when publications are quoting somebody, you have to believe that publication. As you say, you see so much nonsense on the internet about football rumours, about life in general, that you take everything with a massive pinch of salt. But this seems to be legitimate. But again, we don't know that for a fact.
Well, I hope you enjoyed this one. We spent half of the show talking about the weather, so but it's getting a little darker, a little cloudier. I don't know if you could see it as we picture. You could see some of those thick clouds right above, just to the right of center. And there are thunderstorms possible in that 10 to 20% range. But as of now, teams are warming up, as you can see, and that's New York City on the left side of the pitch. And we're just about set to get underway ourselves in about 10 minutes at 7:15. The pregame show presented by Ford with head coach Pascal Janssen. That's on the New York City FC network, nycfc.com/radio. Sync us up at kickoff time. Listen to the commentary. When we get to kickoff, I'll make it really obvious. Pause. Let the video catch up. And when they get to kickoff, hit play, and then you got Matty and me for the whole game. What could be better?
What could possibly
be better? I don't know. All right, man. For Matty, I'm Glenn. Thank you very much for joining us, and enjoy the game, everybody.